Hi everyone, welcome. Welcome to this after church tea time on how to have confidence. I'm Yoreen, and I'm very happy to be here today with Rachel and Carmen to discuss this Sunday service and the sermon by Laurentiu and Alexandra on confidence. And they've chosen to describe confidence and how to have it in five main keys, 5 points. And to start this discussion off, I am curious to know what was your favorite point out of all of them, like your personal favorites.
Well, I don't know if I've got a favourite because they were all very good. But starting off with the theme of confidence, it's funny that it was this week's theme because a couple of weeks ago, confidence was the lesson in my Kung Fu club, where the teacher asked, hands up who's confident to be able to explain the application of this move. And about a third of the people went, yeah. A third didn't put their hands up, and a third went like that. And he said, well, that's not really confident. Oh, I'm confident. So it's like there's no middle ground with it. You're either confident or you're not. It's not something that you do half-heartedly. And if you're not in a place of confidence just yet, you can work towards it. But by the end of the lesson, a lot more of the people were going, hey, he was very pleased to be hearing that. But it's certainly something that the collective is definitely moving through right now.
Yeah, I agree. I also don't have a favorite point, but if I had to decide, I think it would be for me just right now faith, because it's so important to have faith in the process, in God, in yourself, that you always choose and keep growing and keep on doing progress, and just knowing the steps right in front of you and not thinking you have to be somewhere where you're not right now. And it's safe to accept that, but to have faith that you will get there by choosing it, right? And yes, just having faith in the process, I think that's really such a great deal. So I would say that might be my favorite point, but all of them are very important and very, very crucial and good.
Yeah, all of them are very good, I agree. And I'd have to agree as well about the point about faith, because I think many times in my life I would have liked to know that being confident about something that hasn't happened, and that might be a risk for many people, is actually having faith if I was connected to God and if I listened to God, And I think it links well to a class I've just finished. It was like TFAS. I think it was TFAS Wednesday, 7 p.m. and it was class 73 about twin flames, facts and evidence. And I think the responses there were great, and the explanation on why people couldn't believe, like couldn't have faith, and would rather have fear in this place and not know God, is that the earth, in some way, they're choosing separation. They're choosing to have God, but they're searching for God, but they're are trying to separate from God as well. Like we're trying to find him in in places where he isn't, or by themselves, trying to do this by themselves. And so I guess in that setting, it's quite difficult, to trust that you have support, that God and other people would ever support something that is not logical to you, that seems risky. And yeah, that's just it. Like, this is such a simple point, but it struck so deep, the way Alexandra shared it. Because that's not something that we're used to. And yeah, I was quite happy that she concluded with this. And I think, same as Rachel, obviously, I was working through it, healing this past experiences where I didn't have a confidence, or I was confronted by people that were like the friend that was always doubting and saying, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" And so having confidence in myself and knowing myself and God, my divine self, helps a lot in these situations. And so I think in that sense, like the sermon was perfect. And yeah, how do you feel about it? Because I'm sure we all have experienced challenges with that faith, in ourselves or with other people.
Well, yeah, I just want to briefly touch on what you just said about other people trying to bring you down, because we could go really deep for half an hour in just that little bit. But there was also a class, it could have been the same one, I'm not sure, where Jeff was talking about faith. And he said, well, by this point, it shouldn't be a blind faith. It should be an informed faith. It should be a knowing. And it reminds me, well, I'll come to that in a moment, but staying with the faith, I was talking to people just this weekend about if you're not at 100% faith, it's okay. You can't go from 0 to 100% faith in one go. It's okay to be working towards that. It's like your relationship with God. It's a relationship that you build. And it brings me to a personal reading that I'd done by Drake. He said, are you feeling confident in your relationship with yourself? Are you feeling confident in your relationship with God? Are you feeling confident in your relationship with your twin flame? If not, it might be time to spread a little bit more confidence there. Just keep calling it in. So eventually you notice the results. You may have to call it in a lot if you've been lacking there, but then that's an illusion as well. I mean, we're never lacking anything. We just believe that we are.
Yeah, there is something that comes very well along with what you just shared. Is like, I think Jeff also in one class said, if you would really knew who is walking besides you, why bother? Why even having fear or something? Because when you truly know who's walking besides you, which is God, or who's God, then yeah, nothing to worry, nothing to take care of. It's just flowing through you, and yeah, everything is aligning perfectly and you are in alignment. And yeah, that's awesome. And I think for me, when I thought about, what's confidence for me, you might think confidence is when you see people walking like this, having their breast out and be like, yeah, I'm so cool, I'm so nice, and nothing can touch me, and you be so cool. But when you really feel into it, it has more like this distance and this almost like kind of numbness in it. And so what I found from that sermon and what I felt, what's coming up for me as well, what is confidence for me, or how I, of course, going hand in hand with the 5 steps that they shared in the sermon, is like being vulnerable. Because when you're really vulnerable with God, with yourself, and allowing yourself to feel the feelings where you feel extremely weak and also sometimes like a baby on this journey, then you can actually gain and reclaim all the strength that is already there. And that makes you actually confident. Then in that you build it, and in that you get stronger and have that foundation that you feel like, wow, I'm in peace, I'm invincible. And that's it. Then you just feel grounded, peaceful, and then you have that true radiance of power in a way, or yeah, this peaceful confidence, you know.
I know what you mean. And yeah, I feel like we could make the distinction between false confidence and true confidence. Like, for example, in the way we walk, like are we walking false confidence? Like, would be walking in the streets in a different way than what you're presenting at home or with yourself. And obviously you're not being vulnerable, like you're trying to, it's like distancing yourself from people and from having a relationship with life, because you're trying to put up a front. And true confidence would be you're walking the same at home and in the streets, but it's like very assured in yourself, like, you know, you have respect for yourself, like that you're divine, and it's just felt by you and by the life around you, you know. And this is so much more vulnerable, but so much more powerful. And I think this is a true distinction and something that everyone ought to learn, because oftentimes what we are learning is confidence is not really confidence, you know, in life. Makes me think there was a funny meme video a few weeks ago that was like all around the Instagram, my Instagram. It was like how to walk confidently, a lesson by Marilyn Monroe. And it was like you descend the stairs and you just like straighten up and you look at everyone, and it was kind of flirty and assured, but I think like the true message wasn't about confidence there, because like the goal is not to walk like Marilyn Monroe. The goal is to walk like yourself and be a true winner in your life, but because you're yourself, you know, and it goes back to that point of knowing your divine self that Alexandra was making. And yeah, that's just it. It's just making the distinction between what we're taught, and what is true. And I think if we had that confidence, like if we have confidence, we have faith. I think that was Shalia that said that one day. That faith derives from being confident in your divine self, and so in your relationship with God. And then if you have faith, like there is no need to have doubts, to have questions. And if ever you have doubts, or if someone has doubts about you and what you're doing with your life, you can just answer that simple word would be faith. You know, it would be the answer to every question. And yeah, I think it's so powerful. It's almost like a magnetic force of life, you know. And yeah, I don't know, how do you feel about this? Because it's quite a deep topic.
Yeah, well, what Carmen was saying a few minutes ago about people acting confident and flaunting it when they're not really confident, it's a facade. It reminds me of a book that I read 25 years ago, where the author was talking about when people feel fragmented within themselves and they're not happy because they're thinking one thing, feeling another thing, and acting something else. For example, thinking I'm cool, feeling insecure, and acting tough. And I quoted that to someone years later, and they said, "Oh my God, that is absolutely spot on." And someone like that is not in alignment with their divine self. You're confident when you're being yourself, when you're when you when you when you're comfortable in your own skin because you know your divine self, and you know that you're unharmable, untouchable. And yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people aren't there yet. But all you can do is keep choosing that for yourself. Keep choosing to move towards it, and you invite other people to do the same. I mean, they have to choose to themselves, but you can show them your example of moving into confidence. Maybe some people, the people that try and drag you down, they're the ones that believe that you got something that they want, and they don't realize that they can claim it for themselves. So that's another thing you do when you're confident. You have loving boundaries where appropriate, because you don't want to be taken from. And if you are confident, then you won't allow yourself to be taken from because you know you don't need anything from anyone. I mean, probably the most ripped off we've all been in our lives are from people that we knew were a little bit off when we first met them, but we allowed some sort of logic to cloud that thought because we thought we needed them or something from them, and then we allowed ourselves to be taken from. So all that is going to be left in the past. We don't have to play those games or play out those patterns anymore. It's such a relief.
There's that thing about acting tough that makes me think about Laurentia and Alexandra's fourth key. And it was like, I guess it was about letting go of perfectionism, you know, trying to be perfect, because like false confidence would very much be about trying to look perfect. Whereas what they were saying was that it's okay to make mistakes. You can't expect to be in perfect union with God from the get-go. I think that's what false confidence is trying to mimic in some way, you know? And so like it's very important to allow yourself to, it's also being your divine self, to allow yourself to be vulnerable in this way and make mistakes to learn, because you're going to grow so much faster and so much closer to God in that space where that you've created to be loved, whatever happens. So yeah, that was what this acting tough made me think of. I think. Carmel, did you have something to say about it? You seem deep in thought.
Yeah, I had some point that I wanted to add to that, but I lost it. So I guess it's not important for now. So I have to release it and release expectations to what I'm going to say here. Yeah, because that was one point as well. And see, and that I got it back. No, wait. Yeah, you have to allow yourself to make mistakes. Otherwise, that's what they said in the sermon as well, and I loved it. Just allow yourself to live, to make mistakes, to explore, to see what it does feel good when you, or what does not feel good when you're exploring. Also with the love list, what do you want in life, and who is your twin flame when you explore that, always in refinement, and yeah, just allow yourself to make mistakes. Otherwise, you won't be able to grow, and that's important. And I think in making these mistakes and seeing that as part of the process, like as upsets are part of the process, it's not something that is against you, it's for you to go deeper. And yeah, the more upsets you experience right now, or the more heaviness, you must have called something very big in, right? That is also part of releasing expectations, seeing when you say to God, hey, I want this thing, or I want to, for my case, it's right now in life purpose, I want a perfect job, and to support myself better and to serve better, and then getting clear, what is this job, and releasing expectations, how it's going to come to me. It's so important, but there was something I wanted to touch deeper on. Yeah, just if I didn't allow myself to make mistakes, or to go somewhere where I wasn't really sure, but I had to explore to get clear, what is it that felt good about it, and what is it that didn't feel good, love myself through it, and then get clarity out of this process to go even further. And in this process, like seeing it's always this cycle of healing and integrating it in, let's say, the physical, and moving forward, and allow yourself to make mistakes and get upset so you can go even deeper. This is like something you get really confident in, because it's basically always this cycle. It's always this cycle. It actually it won't never be different until we reach perfect union. And that is something we can have faith in, and get our confidence, like, yeah, so I'm feeling good right now. Maybe at some point when I expected the less, I don't know if you can say it, when I don't expect it at all, there is an upset coming, but it's good because it's keeping me, it's providing me with what I need to reach the next point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to expand a little bit on the expectations, because we all know that it feels bad if we have expectations of outside people and things. But I think if we're doing that, there's a very good chance we're placing a lot of expectations on ourselves. Like expectations to be perfect, expectations to not make mistakes, when the mistakes are a normal and natural part of the path. And then we beat ourselves up for it. And it's related to when people try and bring you down. Because if we're being judged, then we've got to be doing some self-judgment somewhere. So, and we're treating ourselves very poorly. It's a case of going in and finding where we're doing this to ourselves, and making a new choice there to stop, to release self-judgment, to release expectations of ourselves. Then we can release expectations on others, and just surrender and be able to relax into the journey, and go easy on ourselves and be kind to ourselves. That's really important. So we want our twin flames to be kind to us, so we really want to be kind to ourselves. Yeah, this has been actually, it's tying into a theme that I've been moving through this week, where I was actually taken by a surprise, realizing actually how badly I'd treated myself at certain points. And it's actually good to find this out, because then we can do something about it, and make a new choice of love there, and masses of self-compassion, masses of self-forgiveness. And nothing's ever gone wrong. Everything's brought us to where we are today. I actually saw a quote at the weekend that said, there is no success without failure. It's not really failure. I mean, things may look like they're going to pot on the outside, but that's that's pretty common when you reach the next level. It's like a computer game. You get to the top of one level and you start at the bottom of the next level up. You know, who was it that said this week? Yeah, you feel like you've mastered your healing, your inner work, etc., etc., and then your union comes in, and it's like starting from square one again. So we need to actually realise and acknowledge that these are natural steps, natural parts of the journey, and it doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. It doesn't mean we're bad people because we haven't done this well enough. And likewise, whatever stage you are in terms of your union, don't be hard on yourself and don't think that your union is further away just because you're moving through an upset right now. That's just working the process. That doesn't actually have any bearing on how close you are to union.
It requires a lot of surrender to have faith, you know. And I experienced that at the moment. I think like starting to catch on the cycles of my life. It's like there's a 1 month cycle, and at one point there's a big challenge, and I think like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through? How am I going to survive? You know, and then you start to catch on, and you're like, it happened all the past few months, and then you always had a breakthrough. God always showed up. You were never alone. You never had a near-death experience, you know. You always went through it, and you chose love, and that's what's important. And you always had your support. Like you had your coach and your friends, and you had the mirror exercise and the teachings. And I think I could compare it to saving me like every single month, and then you have a breakthrough, and then you go to the next level, and then you experience your own challenges, and then again and again. And at this point, it's like it's talking about the blind faith that we were talking about earlier. You know, it's just you're starting to catch on, and it's still difficult. Like you still have to go through all the emotions, all the upsets, but it never means that you were abandoned or you were alone facing them. And so when you're starting to know yourself in the way that you're starting to decipher all of these cycles in your life and how you function and your habits and your relationship with God, I think this is like the best tool to you know, be the leader in your life, to be powerful, and at the same time humble and vulnerable enough that you are always open to God. And I think this is a beautiful process. And I think maybe it ties well with like the card reading that we had by Kanisha, because I love when Kanisha uses the surrender cards because like she has such beautiful explanations of it. But she used like the surrender to intimacy card and the surrender to passion. I don't remember the second card, but it was basically like, you know, the confidence was. Do you know the second card? Do you remember? No. It was like true confidence was going back into that natural state of feeling closer in your relationships, because a lot of the times like we're learned to to grow cold, to be confident, because you're powerful, so you don't have to share with the world, and that's a thought of ego. That's an arrogant thought. And yeah, true confidence is very vulnerable, very close, very loving, and so different from what we're seeing right now. But that's just it. That's just our relationship with God. That's a love that is required to have that true power, that true powerful and loving life. And that's such a big component that everyone must learn and master to have that true confidence. And so realizing that we have that we are learning that makes me take a step back and be really proud of what we have accomplished, like through the teachings of Union and what Jeff and Shalia have told us. And yeah, that was just my thought process about it. But yeah, it definitely requires like courage to be that vulnerable and open.
Yeah, it does require courage, of being scared and carrying on. Yeah, vulnerability. It can be a scary thing. We have to be vulnerable to be in our unions with ourselves, with our person, with especially with God. And I suppose that echoes back to the acting tough thing, because that's where people try and appear invulnerable. So what they're not taken from, so nobody tries to take from them effectively. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, it's protection from harm, but then you can't actually be harmed. That's the illusion. And that brings us to the other point that Alex and Lau were talking about, differentiating between truth and illusion. We've talked about that one yet. And how to differentiate between truth and illusion. Well, the truth always feels unequivocally good, peaceful, and relieving. Illusion feels bad. So I've been going very deep into identifying the voice of ego recently. And basically, the ego just says the opposite of the truth. It says things that are so ridiculous. I mean, now we've been able to distance ourselves from it. We can look at it and really see how ridiculous the ego is. But yeah, we've bought into it for far too long, really. But it's up to us to recognize when the voice of ego is arising and saying no to it, saying stop to it, block, block, block. Yeah, so yeah, would anybody like to expand on that?
Yeah, so it's also interesting that ego comes through the mind. So when you actually listen to it, it makes you offers that sound so logical to you, right? They all make in some way, in the earthly way, sense. You think like, oh, yeah, it's true. I should get a job just to provide myself for something, but you know that you healed through it. You know, you reached a certain level where you know you deserve something better, for example. So right now I'm obviously sharing from my experience. And then the mind is trying to tell me, your ego is trying to tell me, yeah, but you should get another job, or you should do something, or you should keep all the money that you have right now and hoard it just in case there is something happening, right? But all that the mind is doing is just preparing for bad situations. It's just like, it's like a calculator almost like a PC, calculating all the worst case scenarios to keep you safe in a way. But knowing that you don't have to listen to that, and that your actual and real safety comes only and ever from God, then you can relax into your heart and peacefully choose to move forward in and with God. And so that's also something. Ego is always louder than God, but I think from time when you move the process, God gets louder, definitely. That's also where the confidence comes in, when you feel like, oh yeah, this actually does feel much better than listening to ego, and so this must be the right way. And then you can relax into God's way for you and have faith again that even though you don't see where it's going, that there is the way. It's already laid out, everything is aligned perfectly already, and you just have to say yes every step of the way. And really, the key is, as always, just being present now. It doesn't matter what's going to happen tomorrow. It doesn't even matter what's going to happen in 5 minutes, not even in 1 minute. What is really the only thing that is important is the present moment, just right now. And that's where you always find God and listen to him. And then you see, if you would always be present, like 100% present, basically like perfect union, then life would feel like you're floating on on clouds. I choose that in a grounded way.
I love that you've just shared that, and it makes me think of my story. It's so funny that I was working through that the past 2 days, but basically I'm preparing for a trip, and at first it felt amazing, natural, good, and that's how things work in my life. Even if I feel like natural and good, especially for like moving around or interviewing for a job, for example, both are the same. Or if it feels clogged, then it's even not for me, or there is a block there. And then it started to feel bad. It's so bad, but it was like the mind always asking questions like, what if this happens? And what if you don't have enough for this? And what if you will be in danger? And all ridiculous things. And I had to really look at that, and I had to look at myself and where I come from, because I come from probably a family and culture where my parents want to wave down like every possibilities 1,000 times to be sure that a situation is not risky or not bad. But this is a thing from ego, because most often, like I'd say 100% of the time, what will be brought into your consciousness is the thought of a potential danger or a fear or something, and it won't leave your mind. And so this is the really dangerous things, because this is it seems logical, as you said, but it stems from ego. And so I had to really look at that. And I was like, I was shifting my consciousness from what if something bad happens to what if something bad would happen. And I was like, yeah, what if good would happen? What if the most probable thing is that good would happen, And why the frick not? It would not happen to me. Like, why wouldn't it be good? And that's when you say stop to ego. That's when you say no. That's when you say fuck off, basically. It's so powerful. It was like in a moment. It wasn't even a block, it was a thought consciousness. In a moment, the trip felt good again. And so I was like, I am not allowing ego to poop on my body, quite literally. And I am not allowing ego to poop on my life and my joy because it doesn't have a right to. It's not necessary. It's probably not how I was brought up, but that's what I'm learning now. And so I won't have any of it. And yeah, it felt so good. But it was definitely like you have to make the choice. Really have to make the choice. And I realize now that again, going back to that point of like, am I the friend that's supporting and in faith, or am I the friend that is pooping the party? And it's going back to, am I being that friend to myself? You know, am I being good to myself there? And you have to choose that. The journey is not easy, but it doesn't mean that you have to be in a bad place where you're being severe with yourself, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the being kind to yourself bit again, because that's really important. And I do understand what you're experiencing it, because yeah, well, always really. I'd uh, the voice of ego would be seeding fear in the mind, and I'd be thinking, oh, I've got a really long journey to do at the end of the week. I don't want to. Yeah, there's no point in being paranoid about it, because that's what it is. However, just because a fear is irrational, that's no reason to invalidate. If you're feeling it, you have to feel it, go there, and work through it. And yeah, parents being worried on our behalf. Yeah, my goddaughter is 18 and she's going to Spain soon on her own. She does commentating for a gaming channel, and after that she's going to Sweden to see her friend's concert on her own. Her grandmother is so proud. She says how that's really grown up. She's really happy for her. But my mum was saying, well, wasn't her gran worried? No. Well, I would be. Yeah, yeah. Some people just like worrying, but it's a choice. We can choose not to worry. I mean, perhaps we will have a default level, something that a level of worrying that we've become accustomed to as children, but it's a question of spotting it and deciding that it doesn't serve us, and releasing that old pattern and choosing to move forward in a much happier, more peaceful, more relaxed way.
I have compassion for parents, well, mine first, because they want what's best for us, basically. But I'm just seeing how, and that's why I'm so grateful to have like Jeff and Shalia, because we do a lot of like divine parenting to a lot of people. And sometimes like the things that they do in all of our relationships, they show the true way to parenting, basically. And my parents were probably brought in that, in that worry environment, in that fear consciousness. And these are really big blocks. So yeah, I have compassion for them. And I know it's going to be challenging, and that, the journey of, deconstructing, like rebuilding that programming won't be easy, but I do have faith that it's possible. And I know now that I've seen it in like several instances in Jeff and Shaya and other people, that divine parenting and the true way to being parented truly exist. And like actually the first example of that is having a relationship with God. And because God is our true parent, our true divine father and divine mother. And it's okay, like it's okay to want to know what's going to happen to your child. But again, you have to confront that to what God truly desires for your child. Like you want their safety, but do you have faith as well? Like, do you have the faith and strength to ask God, to consult God on things? Because risk zero doesn't exist. But you can feel like when my loved ones are traveling, for example, I can feel when the situation is like, it doesn't feel good. And when it feels good, like, are you in tune with that? Are you in tune with that consciousness? And are you ready to surrender your child to God? Because it's really God's decision all the way. And it's not a black and white answer. It's just like really having a relationship, consulting with God, because you have to have that relationship with God as well. And you have to bring up your child to have that relationship with God. And it's so deep and so complex and subtle. It's something to work through, I think, like a normal relationship, basically. So yeah, the true question for everyone, parent and child and people with spiritual journey is, are you ready? Are you ready to have a relationship, to invest in that relationship? Because that's the way to your confidence, and that's the way to your safety, and that's the way to your good, twin flame and love, all those things, everything. Yeah. How are you feeling, ladies? Good. Anything to say before we conclude with that discussion? Or are you feeling complete?
Yeah, I'm feeling complete.
Nice. Well, that was really great. Thank you. Thank you for this discussion. And thank you to everyone who has watched and participated in the live chat with us. And thank you to everyone who is watching from YouTube. And if you are watching from YouTube and you've liked this discussion, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you can be aware of like all the discussions and Sunday services that we have and that we provide every week. And with that, have a good rest of your day and namaste. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.